Hello. Okay, The Killer, directed by David Fincher and starring Michael Fassbender. It's based on a French graphic novel of the same name. We follow an assassin that, after a fateful near miss on one of his targets, finds himself in a battle with his employers and himself on an international manhunt he insists isn't personal. So the film opens with a scene that does a fantastic job at really setting up this character that Michael Fassbender beautifully plays. Like, Michael Fassbender in this film was mesmerising to watch. I'm a massive fan of him as an actor, and I just think what he does in this role through his performance, he really kind of captures that very kind of methodical, cold, disciplined killer that he's playing. He is perfect in this role, and you've got this first scene that does a great job in setting up that character and really sort of explaining to us in a way that's very smart, very clever, and not in your face about what makes this character tick and sort of what drives his character. I found this entire experience, along with Fassbender's performance, to be very mesmerising and compelling. So you've got this very kind of simple story. It is a very simple story. You've got this character that Michael Fassbender is beautifully portraying, that he brings to life. And there are moments that just really made me smile, because I just think the way Fassbender plays this character, there are so many layers to his performance, and he barely utters a word. He hasn't got to say an awful lot, but that really does play into the character that we are watching, that we are following. That is his character. He observes a lot, and he allows his victims, he's almost like he toys with his victims by not communicating with them and just allowing them to grovel and to beg for their lives. Those scenes felt like torture scenes to an extent, by the way his character just lets them sort of grovel and talk and just sort of try to talk their way out of a situation. And it's like he's sort of, at the same time, he's conducting this torture, but he's also battling himself. He's battling what he truly believes in with his sort of his ways, like these very sort of methodical, disciplined ways that the character has. And it's all about not being personal, yet he finds himself in a situation that is personal. And again, it's kind of simple, but I just think how that's brought to life through the performances and the writing and how the film was directed is just so damn compelling and mesmerising to watch. And so even though I think that this story is masterfully told by David Fincher, like, I'm a massive fan of David Fincher as a director, he's one of my all-time favourite directors, you do ultimately feel, well, I did anyway, coming out of this film, sort of a kind of like a little lingering question of why. Why does this film exist? Why does this story exist? Other than observing a character that's sort of in conflict with himself and what sort of how he conducts himself, you know, so he's battling with kind of the path that he finds himself on, that he finds himself forced upon, which I found was a very mesmerising experience to sort of watch, and is sort of made compelling by Fassbender's performance. You do still can't help but feel why. And that is a very minor gripe from me. Because, you know, it's just going back to it being quite a simple story. You can have the simplest story on the planet, but it's how that story is constructed and how it's brought together and crafted depends on how immersive and compelling and mesmerising and how interesting it is. And I think this is one of those cases. The Killer is one of those movies. But that kind of plays into another one of my minor gripes. And even though I was sucked into this world and story, I wasn't really emotionally pulled into this story. Like, there wasn't really a heart there or any sort of emotion. You're just sort of captivated by this character and his quirks and what makes him tick. But I kind of felt like the film needed some more emotional weight behind it to have made the experience a little bit more worthwhile, and to sort of that kind of almost personal revenge aspect of the story to just have a bit more weight to it as well. But at the same time, I felt like that may have taken away from what I felt like they were trying to do with this film in terms of capturing that kind of world of a cold-blooded, methodical, disciplined killer. So maybe it was intentional. So then that really puts me into conflict with what I actually like with the film and to what my minor gripes were with the film. And do you know what? You don't always need a why. All you need is to be immersed and thrilled by the experience, and that's what they do. That's what David Fincher does with The Killer. I was satisfied, and it was an immersive experience that I just found really compelling to witness, to watch as it played out. And there's a lot of actors that I'd like to see play James Bond. Like, for those of you that don't know, I'm a massive fan of James Bond, and Fassbender has always been in my top 5 actors to play the next James Bond. After watching The Killer, he is number 1 for me. I want to see Fassbender play the next James Bond. I'm not entirely sure of his age. I've read somewhere that I think they were going for someone younger. But I think he would do a fantastic job at really capturing the character that was first sort of drawn to life, that was sort of came to life with the Ian Fleming novels. I think he would do a fantastic job at capturing that character. So yeah, there's this fight scene in the second act, and it's with the assassin, Michael Fassbender's assassin, and another assassin called the Brute. And it's one of my favourite scenes in this movie, just from the way in which it's shot, how it's framed, certain camera angles, the way in which they shoot this fight scene just really kind of mirrored the brute strength of this character. And it's almost like this energy of the character that, you know, we are watching Michael Fassbender's character go up against. All that kind of kinetic energy is almost as if it's seeping through the screen just from the way in which this fight scene is shot. It adds so much energy. Like, again, it goes back to the immersion. Just the way in which this fight scene is shot, it just really immerses you beautifully into the moment. Like, you're fucking there on the floor witnessing this fight going on, and almost like as if you've got a duck out of the way, and it's just all the way, it's very simple sort of things they do with the camera, and just in the way in which it's framed and how it's shot, and sort of, again, how they sort of move the camera. It's very classic David Fincher, and I just absolutely loved it. It's a fantastic scene, and I don't think I've ever seen a scene that reflects the sort of the energy of a fight scene like this as effectively as they did with this movie. And if you're a fan of Fincher, you will know what to expect when it comes to the look and the feel of this movie. Like, for me, David Fincher is the king of grittiness, and he does such a great job at adding that kind of realism and grittiness to this film that the story needs, and it's all done through the lighting and just how he uses the camera. He is the master at creating grittiness. Again, it all just helps add to the immersion of the story, and with the sort of that journey of us following this killer. And you'll have that very kind of odd moment dotted throughout the film that is truly classic David Fincher. Now, I'm not sure if you'll know what I mean by that, but it might be like a certain death scene, and it'll just be a quick shot of a bullet entering the head of someone, and it's a gruesome moment, but it made me smile because it was classic Fincher, just from the way it looked, how it was shot, and just the sort of the impact behind it. The effectiveness of the moment was very classic Fincher. And along with David Fincher's style of filmmaking and Michael Fassbender's performance, I think is what really makes this experience work for me, with what really is a simple story that does kind of make you think by the end of it, why does this actually exist? But it's still very fucking satisfying. We got a great score again by Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. I think their score within this film really does elevate the grittiness of the story and the world in which we are thrown into. And their score just does a beautiful job at mirroring that kind of cold, methodical, disciplined world with that kind of real grounded grittiness to it. I'm a massive fan of these these composers. Sort of there's certain elements of the score within this film that kind of sort of made me think Terminator for some reason. There was a certain sort of elements to the music that had that kind of very, the first Terminator movie I'm talking about, that kind of vibe of the first Terminator film, and it made me sort of think, do you know what, I would love to see these guys tackle a score for a new Terminator film. I would love to sort of just listen to that and see what that would sound like. But yeah, enough rambling on from me. They are my thoughts on The Killer. I believe it's released on Netflix on the 10th of November. They've got very limited showings of it in cinemas. It was only by chance that I found it, but I do highly recommend checking this movie out at the cinema before they drop it and it releases on Netflix. I think the cinema is the place to experience this movie. Highly recommend it. They are my thoughts on The Killer, and I will be giving The Killer an 8 out of 10. So yeah, they are my thoughts on David Fincher's latest, The Killer, based off a French graphic novel that I've never read, but I'm definitely going to try and check it out at some point. Have any of you seen it yet in the cinema? Then please let me know below in the comments. Did you agree or disagree with anything I said? Then let me know and let's get a discussion going. If you've made it this far into the video, then thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And if you want to see future reviews from just some random Welsh guy talk about film and TV, then please hit the subscribe button. It will mean an awful lot to me. I'm currently on 185 subscribers, so a massive thank you to all those that have subscribed to me over the year. It means so much. I'm hoping to hit 200 by the end of the year, and so yeah, that would mean an awful lot to me. But I'm sort of overwhelmed by the fact that I've already got like 185 subscribers who are interested in just some random Welsh guy who ramble on about one of his passions being film and TV. So yeah, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys soon.